Here. You get this, that Jody, that.
Silver delinquencies.
All right, so it's Diane, is she coming?
Yeah, she said she was.
She's up. She's here. So we're gonna put, the ARSA stuff first. Because Michelle's here.
Good.
We don't have to make her sit and wait. Take committee people. There's no staff report.
Okay.
Oh, is this?
We're gonna get rid of
I
that.
never got,
Oh, from Gary?
yeah,
I asked him to send it to me or you.
where did he send it?
I don't know. He's gonna be here tonight.
How do we get rid of that?
How do you still want to see it?
Maybe here. See that's up on the screen.
Join it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't even see that on here to get rid of it.
All right, so
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Very
I haven't looked at it yet.
The audio.
Hmm?
The audio working?
Hello.
Well, I meant-
I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of that. Oh, there you go. Do you have a, there you go. There's a cursor. Say cancel
Yes.
and then. Yeah. Okay. All right, now I'll make this big.
Did you reach out to them and let them know that they can't be on two committees?
I did. I told Gary and I haven't told Larry yet.
Okay.
Okay,
Sitting right there.
you want this spot so you're, can get to the, okay, what do you need me to do? Okay, so I'm gonna leave you here,
Oh, are you?
or am I gonna sit here? No, you have to tell me what you won't need.
Yeah, just stay there.
Right. Let me
Let's see if Jonathan has a PowerPoint.
Is he here yet?
I know. I know.
good people on the screen committee.
Is this a different one than what we have?
Don't know.
CSD, yeah.
Good, Mr. Lee.
Lee, good to see you.
Yes.
Hey, Andy, how you doing?
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Hiya.
that's what 7 days on the beach will do for you.
Can you make 12:15 tomorrow?
Be nice to have seniority.
This is 514, different one. Drop some.
Oh, man.
I'm not gonna mind them.
You got your
My
filler rippers, your
Yeah.
filling rippers?
ground removers. Yeah.
He did good.
Hello there, Andy.
Could have come in on Zoom, but
So we're gonna do her for.
What to do?
we're gonna do closed session first.
Yeah.
What's that one?
Yeah. You're right. Not that we don't want her.
I forgot all my stuff. Damn it.
She reached out to me about 2 months ago and I didn't know if it was like. a escape.
What? I haven't started,
Jonathan's here. Does he have a PowerPoint?
I didn't see him. And, also I haven't started recorder yet.
Little recorder?
Yeah. Alright. I gotta get,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
really exciting.
I know.
I'm only like 11:45. He was sitting next to me.
Just hit
Turn it on.
Yeah, I've got the,
They're like, no, it's great, it's great.
I don't know.
I said, well, more of this.
Yeah. It's all good.
But yeah.
Is it not-
Probably a good hour.
Wow.
okay,
Yeah, and I couldn't figure, I don't know the video after first.
where's John?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. It's
no, has not
Told him I sent this actually to the movie. I went to Georgia Clooney's.
guaranteed.
Agreed. But all right.
Are we gonna do all of closed session?
Okay, so why didn't it go big?
And I don't think we are right now.
Yeah, but why isn't it going bigger up there?
Yeah, you're not. We're keeping it separate.
Changing.
Yeah.
It's frozen over there.
You have to do something here.
I was just kicking on anyway.
It was going. Frozen. But I, no, it's not, it's frozen.
Oh, okay.
You have a vacation this year?
Yeah.
You have a vacation this summer?
It's recording.
Kids are almost back to school.
Like, close it out.
Maybe they'll be-
Yeah, yeah, kids are back at school.
Yeah.
Really?
What do I do this?
Things on it, yeah.
I'm gonna stop share
Going to is
and I'm gonna share it again.
orientation tonight.
Oh, probably. 'cause
Or
Blue Iris
he's a
closed.
freshman in high school.
Yeah.
Our school does a
It's because Blue
orientation.
Iris said she stopped.
St. Mary's.
Mhm.
Well, my wife teaches in the Catholic school. Well, she's a principal. I don't know, it's a pay school.
Yeah, oh, John.
You gotta write a check.
Let's see if you, let's see if you.
Okay, so you're good. I'm gonna house it.
Sure.
200-degree truck, 200-degree truck with 300, 400,000 miles.
That's a good threat.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to buy me a drink?
I'll buy you a drink just because. Not on that day. I didn't take it.
No, yeah.
On the. Here's the contract.
Nobody.
No, no, not even close. Not even close. Yeah.
It doesn't say anywhere. Yeah, we don't have a camera. That would be doing it from here.
All right. All right, thank you.
I was reading it. It is a full house budget.
Find it.
Yeah. Jeez. That's gotta find its way somewhere tomorrow. Signals are important.
Are we,
Ready?
it's going, ready?
I'm sending it. now, 'cause the phone will be-
I'd like to call the Tuesday, August 6th, 2024 regular meeting of the City I own to order. Janice, can you have roll call, please?
Councilmember Atlan,
Here.
Member Mitchell,
Here.
Councilmember Rose,
Here.
Vice Mayor Ratten,
Here.
and Mayor LeBake.
Here. Item B is closed session. We have 3 items. Conference with real property negotiators regarding 1000 Castle Oaks Drive. Number 2 is conference with labor negotiators, employee organization, Ione Police Officers Association. And then item number 3 is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. I'd like to move item 1 and 2 to the end. And because we have legal counsel here, I'd like to go into closed session real quick, just so we don't have you sitting here all night.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to adjourn to closed session. I'd like any public comment on this item, which is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigations. Nope. Okay, we'll adjourn to closed session. Got a new room?
Yes.
You're recording. No, this is fine. That was just fine.
They're gonna put us in the jail.
Just to send. Nobody talks up here.
I know.
You are still on the air. You are still on the air. You're still on the air.
I'm wondering if this is the. You know what I think this is? That's what I Yes. Yeah. No. Oh, really? I think I must have punched it. Okay, Really? Whoa. Yeah.
There's already one day. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
My water broke.
She identifies as about that, yeah. I know, right? What was the deal is? But we're past the right.
Your name. Yeah. It's not like. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a nice. And then of course,
Good area. Oh, I see.
Thanks, Michelle. Oh, she's sitting over there. Okay. I'd like to call back to order the Tuesday, August 6th meeting, City of Bayonne. There was no action taken during closed session and nothing to report out. We'll move now. Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I did that backwards. I should have reported out on number D. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
Move to approve tonight's agenda. Second.
All in favor?
I,
We have no presentations or announcements. Okay, now we'll open it up to public comment for any item that is not listed on the agenda. I'm sorry, what, Andy?
I think it said.
It says it's recording.
Yeah.
And that,
You just don't, they're not showing
They're moving here. Let's see.
Oh, the picture is frozen.
frozen.
We do move slow.
We move slowly, but not that slowly.
I move slow.
Time stop. It says it's recording. It's stuck at 1:33 p.m.
Do you want to work on that while they can hear? Yeah.
And you're showing it's recording?
Yeah, I can see up there. It says recording. Okay, go ahead.
I am here to address Mayor LaPayne, Vice Mayor Ratten, and Councilman Atman. Mayor LaPayne, I don't know if you know that the walls are in here are thin, and during closed session, a lot of voices are heard. With that said, the council meeting where Councilman Rhodes asked the Vice Mayor Ratten to take on being the mayor. Your voice was very well heard, telling Councilman Rhodes you were going after him and his family. It's in itself is very inappropriate and threatening. The way you have talked to people in the community at these meetings, in public and on social media is inappropriate and threatening. Also, while on council, it seems the arena has been your number one priority. I'd like to know what happened to the money the city said you owed them for your time overseeing the arena, some 29,000 plus in back rent and other charges. It seems once you were in office, that issue just disappeared. Next, I'm calling out Councilman Atman. On his newspaper articles attempting to defame Councilmember Rhodes and Mitchell, many times misleading the public with lies and slander. And now that Councilmember Mitchell is running for board of supervisor and his wife and daughter spoke up about the way the three of you were threatening Janice, the city clerk, you attempted to smear his name yet again with alleged violations and place them in the public agenda. Using the word alleged was a direct attempt to slander Mitchell and mislead the public, because when sitting in front of the public at the very meeting, you said there was no conflict of interest violations. You stated this was only put on the agenda because there could be a potential violation. And then you continued with more lies in Friday's paper and proceeded to accuse him of things you didn't even mention at the meeting. Every one of you have the potential of a conflict of interest at any time. Placing this on the agenda is as an alleged violation was wrong and nothing but an attempt to smear his name ineffectively, might I add. Lastly, I am calling out Vice Mayor Ratten. Again, walls are thin. And when someone is yelling at another, you can hear everything. You started yelling at Councilman Rhodes and telling him he does nothing for our city. You are all out of line. Councilman Rhodes has been to every event in Ione. I have yet to see Mayor, I have yet to see Councilman Atlan at any of it. What have you actually accomplished being in council? Why are you actually on council? This council is supposed to be building our city up, but instead, some of you are using our city's money on lawyers and private investigators to harass not only Councilman Rhodes, but his family. Not once, but twice, as a scare tactic to get him off council and defame his character. Knowledge is power, and Councilman Rhodes has the knowledge. And if he doesn't, he knows the person that does. Instead of using Councilman Rhodes' knowledge about the city.
You have 1 minute left.
City, water, sewer, etc. To save the city money, you choose to spend ridiculous amounts of city's money recklessly. Hearing you spent $89,000 on a fence to close the sewer ponds is crazy. By the way, you said this was to fix the fence a car hit. My parents just replaced 10 acres of 6-foot fence. Hot wire for $36,000. By the way, not many people know why you had the fence put up. But to be transparent, you saw or heard Councilman Rhodes was on the property and decided he was trespassing. Due to the fact Councilman Rhodes worked with a company that commissioned and corrected corrected the equipment that was installed incorrectly at the tertiary wastewater plant that was built in the 90s and was the superintendent of the company that rebuilt the sewer ponds. He gets calls.
Your time is up. Thank you.
can come and assist when things aren't working. He knows things need to be updated, but instead of using our city's money appropriately to upgrade the sewer plant's machinery, you put up very expensive fences. Earlier this year, when there was flooding on Wildflower, Mayor LaFane and Councilman Atwin boasted at the next councilman meeting about how they are the only council members that had shown up to help. They cut, removed brush, put it in the path of the drain, so of course the flooding did not stop and actually compounded the problem. After the meeting, Councilman Rhodes, with the permission of the railroad, actually followed where the drainage pipe was to come out. He found the exit and noted to be on the horse track. It was packed full of mud, so the water was just backing up. Roads and Public Works corrected it. When Mayor LaFane found out about this, she said Councilman Rhodes was trespassing when in fact it was her. It has been brought up several council meetings about the fire hydrant that was not working on Hunter Lane for about 5 years. Councilman Rhodes, with the help and permission of the landowner, had the hydrant fixed. He volunteered all his time to make this happen. He is not getting paid for his time he gives to our city. He loves this town and would give the clothes off his back if it were you and me. I am in complete disbelief on why the three of you still sit on the council. You are not for our city. You are here for your egos and your own agendas. If it is not your idea, it will not get done. You made it very clear that you don't like Councilman Rhodes, that you went as far to have his family that were volunteering their time removed from the train station project, started stating that it needed to be done by union workers. This is completely wrong. The three of you calling out city managers, council members, and city clerks in public council meetings is inappropriate, disrespectful, and defaming. This has been a constant since Mayor LaFane took the seat with Dominic Atlin directing her every move. Instead, we should be trying to solve the issues needed to be addressed in our city, but go by the wayside. Council meetings should not have this much drama. City staff should not feel bullied and harassed. Your feelings and opinions of other council members should be left at the door and specifically should not be put on the agenda.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Susan Priest. I'm a resident of the city of Ione, and I reside in the Castle Oak subdivision. And as you can imagine, there's been a lot of discussion in our neighborhood about what's going on. And so I was kind of designated to be the person to bring forward some questions that we have to see if we could get them answered. And the first question really for most of us, is there a deadline or an event that would cause the course to close? And what is that date? Everyone now is saying September 1. We've heard many dates and we don't have an answer. And I recognize you probably can't answer me right now, but I'd like to get it on the record. And then also, does the city have any contingency plans if Mr. Hahn and the city cannot negotiate a price? And another question, if the course were to close, would the city be maintaining the property, cutting the grass, taking care of the irrigation and ponds, and provide maintenance and to the tertiary plant and the irrigation system on the course? 4, would the property be open to the public like a city park? Would people be allowed access and to use it as a city park? Is there a committee that is working on these issues put together by the city council, or is the city council doing it on their own? There's also a question, is there a venue for city residents to provide input and concerns? Individuals who live in and around the course have the potential to lose significant values to their property, and we would like to have an input and some at least updates on what's going on with the course. And then there's also the issue about what happens to the liabilities that exist were the course to change hands. I know that there's, for instance, memberships that people would have for like 3 or 4 more months that have been paid for. And what would happen to those? The city would still have to honor those, I believe. Same thing with the 30 pass. I know that there's also some liabilities associated with some of the golf course maintenance equipment. And then there's the issue of the golf carts that they lease out as well. So those are a couple of the issues. I'm wondering if anyone from the city has asked for current financial statements, so they had an idea of what any potential liabilities could be. And if they made any arrangements to talk to them about perhaps reducing the price or making sure that there's cash available to cover those expenses prior to the city's ownership. And I think that's about it. Thank you for listening to me, and we look forward to hearing some comments from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know how much we can, if anything, comment at this time. Correct.
They can work directly with the city manager. City manager will be able to develop information as it becomes available.
As it comes available.
Okay,
Yes, go ahead, Andy.
okay. Hi, I'm Tom Quinn. I live downtown. And I got a couple of things. I go real quick. We got to get some more money for the police. There's not enough police in this town to take care of the traffic. I don't see squad cars ever in my neighborhood. I live right here, right around the corner from here. Not because our police department is inefficient. They're great. Our chief is great, but they just don't have enough people. The traffic in this town sucks. Okay, there's that one. The next one is about Jack Mitchell. Jack Mitchell runs a newspaper. Newspapers are really rare these days. It's hard to find a newspaper. It doesn't pay a lot, and they serve the people greatly with anything from obituaries to Little League scores to letters to the editor, like I read the last one. I don't like the word lackey. This is America. You're not an American, Dominic. You might be a citizen, but you're not an American. You didn't grow up here. You grew up where you were a subject.
And I'm not a bigot like you either. Because you don't like Australians, now you don't like what? Anyone that is an American?
Nick.
Well done.
Dominic. Hey, we're not going to do this. Tom, go ahead.
This is this guy here. No, this is
Fair enough.
complete lack of class, which is typical. We have lost so much money on these two not liking hires. They hire somebody and then after a couple months they fire them. And then it's another $20,000. I don't know, a whole bunch of money to run another thing. We have George Lee. Please don't leave or hurt George Lee. He's doing a great job. So have the previous four people up to Mr. Rock, who let us dry. Anyhow, Jack does a good job of doing things for the community. And I don't like seeing him run over the coals. I mean, anybody can have his name slandered, libel in his own newspaper. He's a pretty great guy. So enough of that. Enough of that, Dominic. Yeah, you got no class, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
My turn.
Yep.
I'm Jack Copeland. I live in Jackson and I'm trying to move here, but can't until you guys figure out what you're going to do about Mule Creek water. As people probably know, two people on this council are adamantly for accepting Mule Creek water as part of the irrigation mix along with ARSA. Two are against it. The mayor's situation is unknown. Something has happened. This is a notice that was published in the Ledger. It's from CDCR, and I'd like to read what it says. This is a request for proposal, architectural and engineering services for hazardous material investigation and remediation. Selected firm shall provide services including field investigation, remediation, design, air-related, both airborne and waterborne hazards. Here is the state's official definition of material hazard. A substance, material, or mixture which by reason of being explosive, flammable, poisonous, corrosive, oxidizing, and irritant or otherwise harmful is likely to cause injury or illness. California Code of Regulations, Title 8, Section 5161. Dominic has called the water that's coming from Mule Creek that is being proposed as highly treated industrial waste. Finally, it looks like the new warden is finally getting CDCR to admit what everybody has known for years. That is absolute hazardous material water. It's a disgrace that this town is even considering putting it on a public golf course. 3,960 inmates as of July 1st. 187 of them are transgender or bisexual due to the way Mule Creek handles transgender incarcerated people. The pharmacy is over 300 drugs that would make you cringe if you see what they're used for. Well, all of the bodily wastes and what's coming out of Mule Creek that causes this to be hazardous waste are those kinds of remains from that. Mule Creek is a prison. It doesn't handle hazardous waste well like a hospital would. So that, let's talk about 3 issues that you may not be aware of. I'm told that council members Ratton, LaFane, and Atlin have never visited Mule Creek and taken the tour how hazardous water has been handled and also talked to senior staff there about the problem. I do know for a fact you've never gone up to Castle Oaks Golf Course and talked to the people who are trying to expand and develop that facility. Here are 3 things that ought to tell you a lot about Mule Creek's hazardous water.
You have 37 seconds.
37 seconds. Well, we'll get as many as we can. Number 1, they have a spray field. That spray field, no one is allowed to go on. No inmates, no correctional staff. It is so toxic that they have trenched an entire huge area to make sure that no water gets on anyone else's land. Number 2, the Miwok tribe was offered this terrible water. They refused when they found out what was in it. It was going to go on a hayfield. They refused to feed it to their prize cattle. The third one is that this is a hazardous waste spill report from the governor's Office of Emergency Services. Every time there's an accidental spill into Mule Creek, one of these gets put out. You're going to put it on a golf course. The runoff from the spray is going to go into Mule Creek. I wonder what the people are going to think about this town getting one of these every time you water the golf course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Rhodes, I'd just like to say that Dominic, the only time I've been interviewed by the Ledger Dispatch, I think when I was 13 years old, when I won a youth shoot up at the Sunnybrook. That's the last time. I've never been interviewed by the Ledger Dispatch like you wrote in the paper. Thank you.
Did not like.
Thank you, Larry.
Girlfriend.
Is there anyone on Zoom or?
No.
No? Okay, we'll close public comment.
I wasn't sure if you had someone on Zoom. Oral Custer, 577 West Marlette. I just wanted to comment, we had some sparks fly a little while ago in connection with, well, I think it was in connection with the 2 people running for second district supervisor. And I just wanted to mention a wonderful friend mentioned the other day Lois McDonald. I think she led the GOP in Amador County probably 15 years ago. Just a really great lady that has contributed a lot to our county. And not living in this area, but she just happened to mention to me that, well, you have two great people running for second district supervisor, Jack Mitchell and Dan Epperson. And they're both in the city council. At least that's what she thought. And of course, Dan has been for some time. But I thought about that and I thought, you know, Lois is right. We really have, we're very fortunate to have two people kind of like comparing Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump running for second district supervisor. So I would say I'm not going to endorse. In fact, I suggested this in writing about our historic Preston Foundation history, that in this case, I don't want to endorse either candidate because they're both great candidates. And I'm kind of sorry to see the kind of sparks we saw a while ago. I don't think that really becomes the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl.
Yeah. The man that wanted to move to Ione, I would like to know, when are we gonna find out what Mule Creek's doing? Because they were at a meeting, I'm gonna say, a year ago, 6 months ago. I asked them personally, Assistant Warden and them, I said, now you guys were supposed to put a tertiary plant in that place when you built it, and you didn't do it. Well, I didn't know nothing about that. Well, I mean, don't people read their contracts? That's the biggest thing. Nobody reads the paper, their paperwork. It's just like our tertiary plant. I was told something about that the other day at a meeting, and I'm not gonna repeat it, but I was really surprised. And nobody ever knew, I guess nobody ever read that contract. One person did, the person that's studying all that stuff for us. And that was I was really shocked because I've never seen the contract. But I think all the councilmen should read that contract that ARSA and the city, Sutter Creek, and Mule Creek, what the agreement is. Because I imagine it's pretty thick. And another thing is we got to find out what Mule Creek immediately, find out what Mule Creek is doing with their water. I don't see the spray fuels going. I went by there today and I looked and there was nothing going. So what are they doing with their water? Are they sending it to us again on the sly or what? So I think the city council people better look into that, especially the city manager. He's got his job cut out with him. Because if they're shipping it back to us, you know, we're in trouble. They were told time and time again, do not send that water to Ione because our tertiary plant cannot handle it. And I don't know, most of you people don't know much about tertiary plants, but I went to one down south and they can handle about anything, but they got all kinds of stuff. They got a tertiary plant, they got lights, they got all kinds of filters. They got I don't know, it's a giant thing. And they said, and they were saying with all the technology that they have in their plant right now, is they're getting worried because there's so many chemicals going in, you know, people taking drugs and all these new drugs that are coming in here and then, you know, go through your body. And they said they're starting to see it. Even the top equipment they have is almost outdated, they said. They're getting worried. So I think a lot of people, I don't know, especially the sewer committee, ought to read those contracts and study what's going on in these other plants now. Because even the new one, I think the guy was working down there, I was talking to him one day. In El Dorado County, they put a brand new one in maybe 10 years ago. And he said they were starting to have trouble because of all the chemicals going in. You know, and everybody says, well, they don't hurt you, they don't hurt you. Yeah, but where they hurt you is if somebody has a baby. It goes through, you know, generations, and then before you know it, you got a bunch of sick babies, you got sick people. And nobody's ever took a survey on the cancer deaths in Ione and what caused them. I mean, that's another thing, because that prison water is, I'm not surprised it don't glow at night when you spray it up in the air, so. Please do something about it. That gentleman had a very good presentation, I think. You know, everybody in Iowa's been asking, and all the people that live at the golf course, and nobody ever wants to give them an answer. Nobody wants to do anything. But one of these days, you're gonna have a lot of sick people. And then you're gonna have to really pay a nice, beautiful little fine like they do. It might be 10 years from now or 20 years, but it's coming. But our treasury plan is not designed to handle any of that stuff. So just, you guys got to go look at a few of them and talk to the big operators in the cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Any more public comment? All right, we're going to close public comment. Item number H is information only. H1. Moving on to the consent calendar, I'd like to pull the warrants, move it over to the regular agenda.
Okay.
Need a motion for that?
I'll second.
So second, moving item number 2 to the regular agenda.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
So can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar without item 2?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We want to put it at the end. No, we'll just go right in. We'll make warrants number 1 or,
That's correct.
okay. I have some questions, and I know that the finance committee worked with staff on the lack of following policy. I don't know if we're gonna have a report from them at the end. But I see a couple items on the warrant that I have questions about. Specifically the 98,000 that's going to Waterstone. On something as large as this, and we know it's it's on the task order, right? Or not the task order, the approval at the last council meeting of the items that they were requesting.
I assume that's what that payment is for. Yes.
Okay. Is there any way we can get something more than just what we received? Meaning, what did that $98,000 buy? Where does it belong? And so forth. Just to, it's a big chunk. And I know we approved it, but Justin, I'm talking to them. I don't need you. So when you got it in, when you got the invoice or purchase order in, did it itemize what the city was paying for?
Yes, but exactly what you guys approved the same list, and she just gave me the messages, equipment, and they pay the labor as it happens, but they need the equipment up front so they can order it.
I think they've already ordered it, right? So.
Well, yeah.
But I don't even think at the last council meeting, we got an itemized list.
We did. There was one. They listed out what they were going to fix, replace, and then those were the items that
It wasn't, it was sort of in chunks. Wasn't line item.
It wasn't a line item per se. It was a
per
list.
piece
It was
of
a laundry
equipment.
list of what they were going to do and purchase. And and we did approve that.
No, I know we
at that
approved
time,
it.
so-
It's just, it's easier for us when we have questions if there's a little more description in the warrants. There's the last one. There are some others, but I'll just pass over on them. Animal control fees and petty cash. Are we doing our own animal control now?
No, it's something that happened here. It was under the $50. They came in, they did something up, they had to pay for it. They brought me the receipt, so I just gave them cash and then made a receipt for it
Would-
with petty cash. And then that way they paid. And put it on.
They pick something up?
But I'd have to look at the receipt, but I don't know if they had it. Close with the cat or.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
So,
They charge us for that if it's the direct cost.
so this is from the county? So that's been resolved because the last conversation I remember was Chief Alfred was working on it. So that's all been resolved?
We continue to do our own animal control for
I
the
understand.
city, and this county still charges us for dropping off live or dead animals.
I understand all of that. But then I'm missing the boat here because I had conversations with Chief Alfred where the county had given us a stop date to where they were not working with us any longer because we didn't want to kick in $180,000. So it
That
just
has
sort
not
of,
been resolved as far
that
as
is
I
not,
know. That is-
okay.
That is not what this is.
Okay. I've just never seen animal control fees on the warrants before. So I was just curious.
It was done from petty cash, right?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
person's done petty cash because it's a very small dollar now.
Okay.
Usually you do.
And the last one. Weber Geo. I'm not quite sure what to do with this one. At the last council meeting, we discussed the staff administration not following bidding our own policies. Weber Geo was brought in by our prior city manager. There was a conflict with her bringing them in because they had been her employer. That's a conflict, quite a big one. No RFP was put out. We had an existing company doing that work. And we've
We had
been,
our own building inspector doing the work.
excuse me?
We had our own building inspecting.
No, prior to that, Coastland did all the work. And then Coastland left. My problem here is we've been paying someone every month without a contract. They're doing important work. I mean, we ran into this with wildflower in the streets. We had problems with our streets. We had engineering problems with our streets. The city took a big hit on it, said you didn't have qualified people out there. So now we have somebody doing building inspections and they have no duty to us. We're not covered. We're not insured. Nothing. So as we said last week, we said, we'll go ahead and pay these warrants this time. And then here I am looking at a $6,000 bill for a company that should not even be here because they were brought in as a friend, somebody, just handpicked them. So I don't know what happens when, I don't know if we vote on it. I'm not comfortable paying someone. We have an audit going on right now. I have to sit down with the auditors. And when we have an audit of this, they don't point the finger at staff. They point it at us. They point it at the governing body. And so I'm not comfortable approving these warrants with this check. And it's been approved now. Gosh, for over a year and a half, we've been paying them. And
That's your prerogative.
well, it's policy. I'm not making this up. This is our own policy. This is our own municipal code. No city that I know just doesn't have a contract and
Well, there is a contract.
There's not a contract. That's a task order, George.
There's a task order.
Right.
This is,
Task order.
that's it. So I have to agree with Mayor LaFane. We have no information. We have no indemnification. We have no insurance information. The city is sending people out to do work for us as our
Agents.
contractor.
Yeah.
And we don't have a contract. We have a task authorization that was basically says the above work shall be performed on time and materials basis and subject to the attached rate schedule effective January 2023, 23, excuse me. And we have a list of charges. So we don't, this is not a contract. We talked about this, we did talk about this at the last meeting, and I believe we talked about it at the finance meeting. We need to have, if we're going to do work with people, we have to have a contract.
I am working on a contract with.
No, well, that's the
So-
problem.
Well, we know at
It's
this point,
clouded.
we know how much we've spent with Weber Geo over the last year. And we set down certain criteria at the finance meeting, what required for a full RFP, and all of those kinds of things. So if this work has breached the RFP threshold that we set, then we need to do that. I don't believe we should be utilizing services from people where we have no coverage as far as the city is concerned for liability.
Well, my conversations with them, they do have insurance. They do
Well,
have liability.
but we're not named as an
And-
additional
My
insurance.
understanding is they are building inspectors. They're not building officials. There's a difference.
They do have a building official on staff. But again, that's your prerogative. If you
Well,
choose not
it's
to pay.
it's not my prerogative. You know, this is what we're up here for, to keep everything in check and to ask questions.
Done the work. Yeah, that's your
Well, they've done the work knowing they don't have a contract.
Let me jump in real quick. One of the things we have to do here on the council is we got to make sure that the city's following the policies. And they're not just for Ione, they're for all cities. And we've identified a lot of policies that aren't being followed. And we're not blaming anybody. We're just trying to fix it going forward. And George wasn't here when the task order was signed. You can see whose name is on it. The finance committee is working with staff to get all this cleaned up, and also with George. We're trying to get all this cleaned up. But we have to follow the rules, whether you like it or you don't like it. That's just the way it is. We're supposed to follow the rules. I would recommend that, and I said this at the last meeting, that I was going to pay the warrants this time, but don't ask me next time. And here we are next time. I don't want to stiff anybody if they've done the work, but this, we have to stop using Weber Geo until this is sorted out. Maybe that would be
Well, we
Something.
have a contracted engineer that
correct. I'm just
can
saying,
provide that information.
Weber Geo should not be doing any more work until this is resolved. That's not mine. Same ringtone. It's just, it's not fair on them because they don't know, and it's just, then it causes problems up here.
Contract, and they know that they were brought in.
I get it. And I don't like how they were brought in, so I'm gonna say that. That's a violation of code 1090 to have an employee bring in their former employer as a consultant. So I'd like that to be put on a future agenda item to look at that. But where we are now, I don't really want to not pay them, but I did say that last time, so I think they should be brought in for discussion at the least. So I'm okay not to pay the Weber bill.
When is
this time.
what is that bill for? Which month?
July. It says July 10th on the warrant.
If it was for, when was the last meeting? July? It was, okay, so this was authorized before the last meeting, so I'm okay paying this one, but that's it. If there's any
I'm not.
bills that are coming due in July, then
We've
I'm
brought
a
this
no.
up so many times. We've brought this particular contractor up multiple times
Okay, then this.
for a
Take a vote.
year. Yes, we do. Yes, Wildan's here. I read it in their contract.
So do we have one or do we not, Mr. Wildan?
It's not
We-
Mr. Wildan.
I know.
It's Mr. Mitchell.
We do, okay, he's saying we do. So I just want to get this resolved. So,
Well, I can tell you previously, when we lost our building inspector, when we had Coastland, the building inspector left, Coastland took over the responsibilities as the city engineer. We paid them to do the work. We have an existing contract with them and we just piggybacked on that and had them doing the work. There's no reason that we can't do the same thing with Wilden.
It's
if
a
we
pass-through,
Well,
isn't
and
it?
if, we're looking to hire a building inspector, is that correct?
She's out, but let me
Okay.
explain one thing. So I understand 100% your point, so we will follow the process. However, one of the reasons why we use Weber Geo is because Larry White and their company is on time, on schedule every Tuesday, Thursday. So let me finish, please. So again, and they're local, so I've used Wildan for larger projects, for the roads and so forth. But building inspections, we did an analysis. Overall, they're cheaper because they're not charging for drive time, so I'm more efficient. So my job as a city manager is to try to utilize the city funds as efficiently and appropriately as I can.
Agreed.
And I'm not arguing with
Again,
you,
I
but my
completely agree.
understanding was the proposal between, first of all, Weber Geo was given Wildan's
So
proposal
we,
sheet.
so I'm gonna follow the process and get an RFP
No.
out, but in the meantime, the work doesn't stop. I have to get these buildings inspected and so forth, so we can stop everything.
We don't
just-
need to stop.
Right.
We have somebody
Right.
that can step in and do the building
Well,
inspections.
if you want to get into the responsibilities, I can give you, I think I sent you an email, Ms. LaFane, in terms of, we've tried to work with Wildan. But you know what? I don't
You
think this
know
is the
what?
time and place.
No, you've brought it up and
Right.
you did include me in all of those emails.
Yes,
I
I
got
did.
bombarded
Yes,
by staff.
right,
And because you included me, I called Wildan
okay.
and I spoke to every single one of those individuals
Mhm.
and they responded on time.
Okay, well,
And they even said that they had 2 to 3 employees calling them on the same issue.
Mhm.
So they had
because
it
we weren't
all
getting
written down.
responses, and I have all the emails to prove it. So again,
And they
this is
did as
probably
well.
a discussion that we should have in
You're right.
private.
You're right, because Wildan is a mile closer than Weber Geo.
Miles closer there in Elk Grove.
No, they're in Calaveras County.
Their offices, they come out of Elk Grove. They're engineers, when they do inspections, they come out of Elk. Grove.
Well, no, I understand you have a preference.
I don't have any preference. My preference
It's,
is to
it
be as
has
efficient as
been,
possible and to save the city money. That's my preference. That's my preference.
well,
Okay.
Well, my
We'll look
preference
at
is
it.
that we're working under a contract.
Yeah.
A valid contract. So if we can, if we have difficulty
Mhm.
hiring a building inspector, which I'm assuming you are because we don't have one yet.
We're interviewing right now. Mhm.
Okay, so this may all just go away when we hire a building inspector.
Mhm.
If that doesn't transpire, then we need to look at the building inspection, bring it back to the council and have the building inspection discussed again, whether we're gonna do it in-house or we're going to contract it out. If we contract it out, then we can do the RFP process.
well, and if we contract it out, we're not paying for a full-time employee. Or a
Well, no,
part-time
that's assuming
employee,
we don't get a
Yeah.
building a building inspector.
Because it's
So
more,
I-
it's more expensive to have it in-house.
The problem that we have is we have to go forward with the things we have on the books
Right.
now.
We've
We
got
have to have somebody
developments
to
coming
do
in.
the work.
Yeah.
And I have trouble working with a company that that the city is not covered with. So that's my problem. With this task order. This is not a contract. We don't have an indemnification clause. We don't have copies of their insurance. We don't have any of the required pieces of information that a contract requires. And with that, I have to agree with the mayor that we should not be using this company going forward.
And
Until
also,
and unless we have no other choice and we put an RFP out and they're the lowest bidder. Then we'll get a contract, then we'll have all the pertinent
and
documents.
not just for building inspections, They don't need to be in our developer meetings. They really don't need to be in the developer meetings. That's outside their scope. They're not part of the city. They're not contracted with the city. So the fact that they're sitting in the developer meetings is concerning.
Okay. So, talk about the bill.
Well, I'd actually like to thank Jody and Andrea for this document. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We asked you guys to do this for us and I very much appreciate you doing it. It's very helpful.
Okay, item J on the regular agenda, number 1, presentation action.
Now,
Oh, sorry.
we gotta vote on the warrants too.
Oh, yeah. No, there's not public comment on warrants, is there?
Oh, you pulled it to the
Oh,
agenda.
you're right. Okay, we didn't vote yet, so we'll do public comment first.
Gary Thomas, 125 Maple Street. I'm not here for Rourke Weber or Wildan, Mr. Wildan, whoever he is.
He'd like to be Mr.
I think he was called, but I believe if you have bills, you better pay them. And it's a little uncomfortable here at times. If you're having troubles with this, there's certain issues you guys might want to take closed door session. Thank you.
Some of it we can't, unfortunately.
Some you can't.
Yeah.
All I can say is the building inspector we have now, I haven't heard one bad thing about him.
He's gone.
Why?
No, why? Isn't it
Oh.
why? Who's doing your
Oh.
inspection now?
Yeah, Weber Gio.
Yeah, everybody's kind of happy with him.
Well, he's got to have a contract, Larry.
Yeah, what I'm
Andy.
saying is, don't pay nobody. Get rid of everybody and then get contracts for everything. We can wait. Heck, you might be 6 months before you get somebody, a new building inspector, and then all the builders are gonna be crying at you. We've had this trouble with the building inspector since I don't know when. We had one and then they fired him and then he went to work for somebody else and he went, yeah, I don't know. But why don't you?
I think he went to work for Wildan.
So why don't you, the mayor of Ione, tell the city manager to put a deal out to where the city can hire a building inspector 40
done.
hours a week?
That's already done.
We just did that.
Okay, and good luck, because there's a lot of people that don't want to work for Ione because there's this problem. I'm serious. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be, I know guys that don't even want to come to Ione and work. You're just lucky that you have builders that want to come here.
Lots of them.
Yeah, you're just lucky. You're getting where you're not gonna even be getting them. Because of the way you act and the way you're doing things. I'm not very happy that you shouldn't be out here telling us, go talk to him on Friday. You can make an appointment on Friday to talk to him and discuss things behind doors. This is ridiculous. Every meeting we go over these warrants. For how long we've been, I don't know, but I'm kind of upset about this building inspector. There's a lot of people that want to get their houses done. They want to do this, they want to do that, and you can't. You're going to run into a problem because a lot of people come and do heating and air. They're going to call you and going to say, well, I don't know if we can give you a permit. We don't have a building inspector. And you're going to have people that are awful hot or awful cold. So, I mean, you're going to have to come to an agreement on this stuff. And do it somewhere else. Don't do it at these meetings. I'm tired about these warrants and money and stuff. If you're so interested in it, have a meeting and come and check everything before, a couple of days before the meeting. And get it all straightened out and closed doors. Because I know everybody gets tired of this. Every meeting we go over this money problem.
It's our only opportunity. We're not allowed to address staff one-on-one. We have to do it when all 5 of us are sitting here.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
You guys
we
do a lot of other stuff that you're
Well,
not
they
supposed
do,
to
yeah.
do. But you know, like I said, good luck getting a building inspector,
We have one right there.
huh?
Just don't.
Yeah, but they're gonna get tired of you too before like everybody else has.
Anyone on Zoom, Janice?
No.
Okay, we're gonna close public comment. Someone want to make a motion on the warrants?
I'll make a motion that we issue the warrants as listed with the caveat that this will be the last we see of Weber Geo without a signed conformed contract.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
What are you knowing on? All of it?
Just
You want,
that's-
you want,
So the warrants.
you want Weber Geo to be paid?
We said no to the motion.
They don't want them paid. They
You
don't
don't
want the
wanna pay
warrants
anything?
paid.
I won't.
You don't want any of the warrants paid?
You guys passed
You
it.
said
the
no
war-
to the motion.
No to the motion.
We haven't passed it yet. I haven't voted.
No.
I'm waiting for, so you two said no. Well, we need the warrants, some of them. I just hope we're not back here again next month.
Well, okay, I'm gonna make a second motion that we issue the warrants excluding Weber Geo.
And have a conversation with them. George can have a conversation with them.
So before, you can have competing motions on the floor, but the vote has.
Those are mine.
No, I understand that, but we have not finished the vote on the
Okay,
first
yeah,
motion.
vote the
being that
first
everybody had
motion.
voted.
You have to vote, Allison.
No, I understand that.
I'll second your second motion too.
Yeah, I'm gonna vote no as well
Okay,
on that. So now we're back to,
the second
My
motion.
second motion, that we issue the warrants with the exception of Weber Geo. And a conversation is had with Weber Geo explaining why we aren't paying them.
Before the council does vote, may I?
Please.
Chime in. So my understanding of the relationship with Weber Geo is under the city manager's authority to procure contracts. 1090, that was brought up, so Government Code 1090 is for existing financial interests. So if there was any sort of expectation or payback or something, promise of a job, we have a problem. Former employees can come into the city and the city can continue to contract with former employers.
after a year.
Well, that's for a different scenario. You're talking about for you all under the Political Reform Act. So that you're absolutely correct. Here, what I wanted to more point out was not necessarily the 1090, was the issue of the contract. So while I agree with you, doesn't have all the elements in it. I like the elements that you're talking about: indemnification, insurance, what have you. Contracts are typically can be one sentence. And what this is a task order where under the authority of the Office of City Manager, that they are relying on that authority. Whether that authority has been exceeded, that's a question. So that you all do have that question, but the city manager does have the authority up to the $15,000 threshold under your current code. So I just wanted to bring that up for you all so that we're talking about, what the policy is. So that would be considered a contract. It's not a favorable contract in that we don't have all of the
No.
the
None
bells
of
and
that
whistles.
work-
A good one.
None of the
Bells
work
and
that
whistles.
was
It's a
done,
purchase order.
prior work that was done,
It was,
we
it
just
was.
hope nothing comes back on.
Right, it's basically us saying, please do this for us, them saying, okay. And there we go, we have a contract, we don't have all the provisions. So I just want to say that for you all, so that you all have what the legal element is that we're
We know.
discussing here. And I thank you.
All right, so I'm going to amend so what you're telling us is this is a valid agreement between Weber Geo and the city of Ione.
What I'm saying is provided that it fits within the thresholds that the city manager has the authority to spend. So I don't know what they've spent
I've
over the
approved
months, so we'd have
This
to.
year, probably 25,
So
and then.
And
whatever you
whether or
guys-
not those are for the same types of services, so
They
we
are
could
all
really kind of
building
get
inspector.
needle pointing down into nuance. I'm just saying that your city manager does have certain authority, but,
Understand
and I
that.
think the direction's clear that from what I'm hearing is you want something more formal. You don't want to utilize that sort of authority And it's not going to benefit George and his office to continue to do so.
Okay, so my.
And
my-
the 1090
My
violation.
second,
definition.
my
Okay.
second or motion stand is still outstanding.
Can you repeat it?
I say we approve the warrants, leaving out Weber Geo's bill for $5,890.16 until such time as a conversation could be had with them and an agreement is reached.
And I seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
Aye. We could probably get a total.
All right.
Jody, can we get a total on that? For that vendor?
Okay.
Okay, now, moving on to presentation, identify potential wildflower subdivision pedestrian crossing and report on status of wildflower subdivision streets. Jonathan Mitchell, city engineer.
Honorable Mayor, member of City Council, Jonathan Mitchell, City Engineer. This is regarding the wildflower item for traffic control devices. And I can provide this brief update in that we are investigating. We have our traffic engineer that was engaged on this in May. We provided preliminary details on what that would require and what our recommended action was. And subject to the last city council meeting, we also received direction to move forward with a on-site traffic engineering review, and our engineer has been authorized to perform that work. So that's a current update for you. I would expect that report will be completed. Typically this takes a couple weeks. I would think that in a couple weeks' time that we would have a report completed, and we can bring that through staff. We had a couple different recommendations on how to proceed. One of them was we incorporate the findings of that report into a staff report, and that move forward to city council. And so I would move forward with that direction. So this will come before council in the future. And in terms of this being an oral report, I wasn't aware this was going to be on tonight's agenda. And so I apologize for not a written report here or a staff report.
So we can expect a staff written report by next council meeting?
I would think so. We're in the rear, so next council meeting wouldn't give enough time to have that council staff report completed. And so in other words, if it takes 2 weeks to complete that.
September?
Yeah, so it'd probably be the next one after that, that it would go to council. But it is possible that we'd have it for the next council meeting as well. I don't want to preclude that from happening. So,
Okay.
but we are working on it, and it will come back to council for with recommendations for approval.
Well, it would be nice if we could get it sooner rather than later with school starting. And the
Understood.
crosswalks being
I don't think,
needed and necessary for the kids.
Okay, understood. Yep. Again, we did initiate this work back in May,
got it.
and we received direction to proceed at the last council meeting.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any clarifying questions from council? Okay, thank you, Jonathan. We'll open
I
it
have
up
the,
to public comment. Is there anybody on Zoom, Janice?
No.
Okay. Moving on to item 2, wastewater engineering operations and capital project items.
You want to close public comment?
Close public comment.
Okay, this is the item number 2. Again, Jonathan Mitchell, city engineer. So the item before you tonight has 4 recommended actions, and so the first 3 are grouped And they kind of dictate, kind of subject on this fourth item. So the first action is West Yost, approval of West Yost Task Order number 4 for services related to cease and desist rescission as detailed and approved as part of the September 5th, 2023 City Council meeting by resolution 2023-36. So this item has been previously approved by council as detailed in your staff report this evening. So unless there's going to be action contrary to the previous approval, there are really no additional action needs to be taken on this. It's been approved, and it can be moved forward at the discretion of the city manager.
Good, right?
Right.
I'm good.
Okay.
Good.
Item 2. Item 2 before you here on this is authorization of the city manager to approve West Coast Task Order number 6, which is a proposal for as-needed wastewater engineering services to the city of Ione for an amount of $85,000. This is on-call services. The reason I'm coming before you this evening is based on items that came before council in April of this year. There were 3 task orders that came before council in April. Council directed that staff investigate these items and come back with recommendations. On this second item, which is an on-call task order, originally it came in as $25,000. Since that time, service has been provided to the city, as well as an upcoming need for different services under this task order and this on-call. So this on-call would make the consultant whole for services performed to date, as well as provide scope according to the attached scope of services in this task order. Okay, I'm going to keep moving through this, and then if we have questions, ask me questions at this point. And then item 3, authorize city manager to approve West Yost Task Order number 7. And this is proposal for coverage, test, and best management practices for Castle Oaks Golf Course for an amount of $38,439. Again, this is a task order that came to council in April and subject to staff investigation. Again, work was performed under this task order to date. So authorization here makes the consultant whole for the work that was performed to date and also allows them to complete the scope on this original task order number 7.
Just real quick, you keep saying the work's already been done. Are we catching, is this the 3 items that they got approval on that council didn't approve? And so we're just playing catch up with this money to pay them, make them whole?
Well, we actually approved number 1
Right,
at the
right,
meeting.
right.
That was part of the
Right.
$450,000.
Right, so all of this is part of the 450,
It was they were pieces of that.
pieces of the 450.
Right. And we asked Wilden to look at it and say,
Right,
tell us what's what.
Yeah, I remember that.
West Yost has been doing some of this work. They did appear at the regional water with us.
Yes,
on
I
the-
understand that.
On that pretense, so.
Yeah,
It's a big part of the 450.
yeah, we've spent $1 million just on administrative tasks. No construction has been done yet, has it?
So I'm sorry. So real quick, just point of clarification. The 400, are we referring to the 450,608 that was brought to council in April? Okay, so that is a separate item.
From these?
From these, yes. It is addressed in the staff report, in the discussion section.
On the next page.
Oh,
But
item number 8.
but it is separate. So that was
Okay.
brought to council in April, but as you can see from this
Okay.
first chart, the amount of 49,500 was brought to council in April of 2024. I'm sorry, let me review this date here. I don't want to get myself confused. So it's right in the front, the first section here. It was brought in September 5th of 2023. So that was previously approved. That was approved in 2023, where the first time that the 450,000 item came to council was in April of this year. So a separate item.
But we pulled that one.
Yes, we did not approve that.
Right.
And then answering the other question, I have not, subject to more thorough review, Mayor Lefane. The amount that would, of these work items, just, preliminary scan here, that is subject to actual construction activity would be the 178,000 that was approved in the previous council meeting for upgrades to the control systems. And that is actual physical construction items.
Right.
And that is, however, that is not a contract with West Yost. So I guess answering your question, these are professional services, engineering, and design, not construction activities.
Got it. Thank you.
And the 179 takes place of the 250 that's on the second page.
Right.
That's right. And there's a note accordingly there as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward then. So item 3, just to kind of review that and summarize. So item 3 was approval of the task order 7, which was one of those original 3 that were brought in April. Item 2 is one of the original 3 that was brought in April. However, it's increased based on work performed. And item 4 is a separate item. Now, item 4 is proposing the adoption of the capital improvement project list, identifying required maintenance and rehabilitation projects to sustain the existing level of sewer service for ratepayers. This is a preliminary project list. Essentially, this deals with the delivery of sewer services to existing ratepayers. And it is not improving on this service or betterments. It is the ability to continue to sustain the service that ratepayers are paying for. And the reason that it's on this staff report and before you this evening is because the work that's to be performed as a part of the task orders discussed here was task order 6 and task order 7, and in conformance with Title 22. We see that there will be recommendations on projects that will be required to be performed. And we won't know about those projects until after this work is completed. So that's why we call this a preliminary list. So in other words, the list that's before you tonight gives us a starting point. We need to have a starting point, but we know that this starting point will be amended as the engineering is performed moving forward.
So these tasks, they're not going to get us all the way through the Title 22.
Yeah, in all likelihood, that's correct. This is,
There'll be more.
that's right. Yes. Yeah, these are initial investigations. There's been some initial investigations. So in your background table, you'll see on June 20th, 2023, where there was authorization of task order number 1 in the amount of 152,100. This was a Title 22 report. And based on the findings of that report, there were subsequent requirements for action, which dictated the task orders that were brought before you this evening. And also task orders number 1A, which was for controls, which was the $49,800 amendment, which then triggered the $178,000 task order that was approved last week, or last council meeting, for controls upgrades at the plant. And so those are the items that are before you this evening. Happy to answer any additional questions.
The capital improvement project list on page 3. Where did this come from? That's about what, $11 million?
Yeah, that's the whole, that's the headworks, that's everything. That's been out there for a while.
Yeah, so we do have some additional early planning documents that were done by previous engineering staff of the city that identified these projects. West Yost in the process of some of their earlier findings also brought these forward as part of documents that they retrieved in their investigations. And so these are the projects that are before you tonight as known. Again, completing the tasks before will likely cause us to modify this list, or we'll refine the list as we move forward.
Where it mentions the SCADA, it says may be reduced by outside funding. Does that mean regional partners or what?
Yes, that's a great question. So when you're talking about a list for ongoing operational needs for ratepayers, the capital projects list does dictate the ratepayers fee, the cost of that service, in other words. And so as a city, we look to keep the ratepayers cost as low as reasonable, as low as possible, really. And so during the course of design and engineering, the city also looks to identify grant funds that would pay for portions of those project costs. And if grant funds are identified to pay for portions of those project costs, then that reduces the burden on the ratepayer.
Do you go after those grants?
We do.
The city does.
Okay. Well, I know that there are some places that will go after the grants themselves. Okay.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, this last number 4, we're looking at is the $11 million.
That's correct. So this is a preliminary list of capital projects that would be required for ongoing.
And we have to approve that at this point?
Yes, so there's 2 reasons for approval of this list. One of those reasons is that as part of the so as part of the Title 22 process, as we respond to the board, we need to be able to tell them with some reasonable likelihood that we have a method to provide for the improvements that are required in service to those ratepayers that we have. So in other words, as Title 22 compliance, the board is interested that we're able to sustain and maintain operations in compliance with Title 22. If we were to respond to the board and say that we have projects that are needed, but we don't have a method to pay for those projects, then the board could call that into question. And so in this case, we're identifying the ratepayers as the method in which those projects would be paid for. Now, there may be some grants or something else that's identified in the future that would drive that down, or there could be additional projects needs that are identified. However, what we're saying is that approval of this tonight identifies ratepayer funding as a method to fund the requirement to keep that service going, which would be these projects. And then we would be able to respond to the state board and say that we have an identified funding source in order for these projects to be paid, which is something that they need to see, that we have a method to pay for the projects that are needed to sustain service. That is one item. In addition, currently there is an ongoing review of the rates for sewer service. And so that ongoing review also requires that there be a list of capital projects that we can evaluate the cost so that we can understand what costs those costs have an impact on the ratepayers. And that is a separate item that'll come to council in the future. However, that would be subject to public comment at that point as well. It's a separate item.
So just because if we adopt this list, doesn't mean we're going to actually spend the money, correct? We're just identifying the ratepayers as a source. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Because we don't have $11 million to spend.
That's correct. You're identifying the need.
Right.
You're identifying the need.
Right.
Yes, exactly right. And so at that point, then, so for example, with the ratepayer process, the need is identified. Say tonight, if this were to pass tonight and be approved, then they would have an identified need. Then what would happen is that would feed into the ratepayer analysis that's occurring at the same time. And that the consultant will then, William Financial Services in this case, will then come back to council and say, okay, these are the needs. And those needs have an impact on the ratepayers according to this amount. And then council and the public will have an opportunity to comment, because at that point we would have an understanding as would that be more than what the current burden and shouldering is on the ratepayer? In other words, would the cost of sewer service increase? And that would be the time when this would be analyzed and discussed, because we don't know at this point.
Right.
From an engineering standpoint, we don't know, does this mean that it would stay the same? Does this mean it would increase? In all probability, it would mean an increase. And then what amount? I don't know the answer. That would be, finance.
Well, the other thing we decided to do at the wastewater committee was to look for getting a loan like we did with the $5 million for the first couple of phases, so that it wouldn't be, obviously you got to pay down the loan, but you're not paying the $11 million out of the rates, you're paying it out of the loan. So
That's correct. There are options,
Yeah.
financing options that could be engaged. Those would be, financial services solutions that we could look at together.
And then finally, half of this was identified in 2009, like the headworks, all of that stuff was, I think it was even approved.
Was
It was approved in 2009 and nobody,
in 16.
and it's reiterated in 16. And of course, we don't have $5 million either. So nothing has been done. So, want to make sure everyone understands that some of this stuff has been identified for many, many years. It's just that we've never had any funding to get it done. And so now here we are, we add the 5 million to another 5 million and we're close to $11 million. So.
And the question will be at that time, some discussion on what impact these projects would have on the ratepayers. And also, is this the complete list of projects? Can this project list be scoped down? Can there be grants and additional fundings sources provided that would help reduce the cost of these? Are there regional partners maybe that would be applicable in this case for some of sharing some of the burden? Then that, if so, those regional elements of the project need to be removed. And so there's layers to this that need to be evaluated as part of the rate schedule. But this is just an initial identification of project needs.
Yeah, so what this is we're saying these are the things that we need to do to get both our sewer system in Ione up to par, right? That's what we're saying. We're not saying we're going to actually spend the money. We're just saying this is what we need. It's like take your car in and you need a new motor, a new transmission, and new brakes, and you decide what you're going to have done. But we are saying that that's what you need. So I just want people to understand that we're not actually spending, if this goes through, we're not spending $11 million. Number one is we don't have it. So
that's exactly right. It's an identified project list, much like capital projects, capital improvement programs, which are 10 years, typically 5 years to 10 years in their delivery schedule, identifies both funded and unfunded needs. Other planning documents, it's very common to identify needs. That's the first step, is identify the need. Once you know the need, you're able to start identifying funds to fill that need.
Okay.
And so this is that first step. Now, just in differentiation from the first 3 items here, that's actually spending money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of came in at the last behind this. This came to council before it went to you. So you weren't brought in on this until when we got it in March,
April.
And then we put it over to you to look at and give your 2 cents on. Would you have made any changes?
So the items
You'd been given the opportunity,
Okay, yes, that's a great question. So we had 3 items that came before council in April, and notice that task order number 8, as we've called it in the staff report, which is called long-term capital assessment planning. The amount was $450,608 that went to council in April. And we have not made the recommendation to approve that task order. So just being clear that in returning to council tonight, I am not making the recommendation that we approve the $450,000 $608 task order, which was in front of council back in April. And so in terms of, that specific item, that's an immediate example that, had we say, if that had been approved back in April, then those monies would be under contract in that value. But tonight they are not, and that's not the recommendation of staff at this point. However, there is some language here that talks about, I guess, a more moderate approach on that. So the $450,000 that came before council in April included initial investigation, identification of need, design, as well as construction, bidding and construction support services. And that was all identified kind of upfront in one package. So what we're proposing is that we move through this process in a linear fashion. In other words, when you first investigate a facility, you identify the needs. Then you can identify the cost of those needs after investigating. And once you know the cost of those needs, then you can assess what the cost of design is on those needs. So it's a linear. In other words, to say that I know how much it will cost to design something when I don't know what those needs are.
Right.
Is a challenge, right? And so in this task order, there was an effort to address that challenge by putting it all in one task order. And, you know, it was the best guess at the time. And there were also some, at that time, there was some schedule constraints that were a concern. So specifically with ARPA funds, which during this investigation, we've come to understand that ARPA funds was what was identified for funding that $450,000 task order roughly. However, as came back to council in previous meetings, there was some report by staff on ARPA funds. And staff reported that the critical path on ARPA funds is not what we thought it was at that time to complete the design by the end of the year. So there was some reasoning behind the rush, if you will, to do that, but it isn't the case now. And so a linear approach is what is recommended. And I believe Mayor LaFane, you're asking as well. I understood your question there. Would I make other recommendations on the other task order? So I spoke to that one as an example. I absolutely would. However, we have a different situation than we had before you in April. We have work that's been completed since that time. And as I said, the task orders before you tonight makes whole on work that's been completed. And so it just as a second example, we look at task order number 7, which is development of golf course BMPs. And so best management practices, trying to avoid using acronyms here. So as an example of that, there's been so the initial task order, 38,000, our consultant has already performed the field investigation and the field work associated with that. And so the remaining portion is writing the best management practices. And so it makes sense that the consultant that has performed the field investigation at this point also finish that scope and perform the writing of the best management practices. But that doesn't mean that would have been my recommendation back in April. But the change is that between now and April, the work has been completed in the field. So it changes my recommendation tonight. Right? At least it impacts my recommendation tonight, I would say at the least. As well as the on-call services task order, when it came to council back in April, was an amount of 25,000. At that time, the 25,000 included work to make the consultant whole that they had performed, but they were not paid for. And now the recommendation amount has increased based on additional work that has been completed by the consultant between then and now. So in other words, we have some situation where I need to make a recommendation that makes the most sense. And because work has been performed during this time.
It sounds like you're making recommendation after the work's been done.
Well, it's based on the fact that work has been done.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so we need to optimize that decision-making at this point is the way I've looked at this. And so since work has been performed, we need to recognize that work has been performed. And there's this efficiency that's gained because of the performance of that work by the consultant, that if we don't move forward with that consultant, then we have inefficiency.
Well, we have to start over.
We have to start. We haven't looked at the terms of what that agreement are. We don't know what deliverables that we'd have to start with. There's a lot of different elements that we'd have to look at, but that's why my recommendation tonight is that we proceed. That's not why. That is one of the reasons why. Yeah.
Okay.
So we of course still have the underlying Title 22 requirements, but I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Mr. Mitchell? No? Thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
We'll open it up to public comment.
Oh, Gary Thomas, 125 Maple Street again. I heard a lot of good from Mr. Mitchell. However, I think he didn't identify a source that you need to talk about when you're talking about adding a capacity or renewing a plant. How much of that is for new homes and stuff like that, EDUs? And I did not hear the word or even a mention about buy-in or something like that for the new homes. So I think you need to look at your buy-in fees, what they are. I don't know what they are. I didn't look at your contract. I didn't look at all the capital, but you guys need to be looking at your buy-in fees as well. You know, if it's for new development, that should not go on the current ratepayers of the city of Bayonne. So I did not hear that part in there. So that's why I felt my need to get up and speak again. The ratepayers pay for the rates to run it and to keep it existing, keep it going. But the buy-in fees are very, very important. It needs to be factored in how much is for new and how much is for existing and so forth. So you can figure that out. Believe me, I've done that too much. I'm surprised Dominic hasn't chimed in yet. But anyway,
Existing.
yeah.
Do you?
Is this
want
all
Mr.
existing?
Mitchell to address
Go for
that?
existing. that's
No,
what-
you guys can. I don't want to, but I didn't hear it. So if you
Yeah.
guys need to ask him more questions, please do.
This, is-
But anyway, so if it's for new homes for more capacity and somewhere down the line, you're gonna need to figure out what it is and so forth.
Yeah.
But I would recommend looking at your buy-in fees anyway, as everything has gone up. So
Significantly.
yeah, so that's the reason I got up here, is I didn't know if I heard it, and you need to be looking at your buy-in fees anyway. I don't know, you know, with all these homes going out, Castle Oaks and so forth, I think we've steered the city of Ione away from the ability to get low-income grants like we used to be able to. So we have some pretty good housing and it's probably upper quality. And the state budget is a mess for grants, so you really need to be careful. I would suggest you look at your buy-in fees any way it goes, whether it's new capacity or not or whatever. I'm not trying to demeanor Mr. Mitchell or Wildan or whoever he is.
you, go ahead, Jonathan.
I would like to say, to all the people, we are not hooked up to the tertiary plan. And this mainly is about the tertiary plan. And I would like to read Constitution of California, Article 13D, Section 4. No fee for a charge may be imposed for a service unless the service is actually used by or immediately available to the landowner in question. Fees and charges based on a potential future service is not permitted. And these people, I don't know if you know it, they've used $1 million of ours since around 2015 to run the tertiary plant. $1 million it was $852,000 last year. Now it's $1,047,000. They've been using our money to run the tertiary plant to water the golf course and help Sutter Creek out and help the prison out. I'd like to know where that money come from and how in the heck we gonna get it back? And you want to borrow $11 million when you blew it for your gosh darn golf course, which I would say if you took the whole population, nearly 10% of the people play golf. I'd like to know how this happened. No answer.
Happy to answer that in private, Larry. Happy. Give me a call.
I mean, I think the public needs to know it, be in writing.
Take up too much
It
time.
never has been. And the contract, their 65-year contract, 2011, if you read it, the golf course used to have to pay $11,000 a month. 2013, you're all of a sudden paying $30,000. Just like you to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, Jonathan, real quick. Please.
Okay, I just want to address the previous question,
Okay.
Which is regarding new development impact fees. And again, so these are two separate fee items. One is the ratepayer fee, which is only for providing and sustaining existing service to the ratepayers. People that are connected now, they pay a rate, and that rate is in exchange for service. And so this is very specific to existing ratepayers. We want to make sure that that's clear. Now, development impact mitigation fees, which is development fees, generate revenue to pay for increased capacity. So we're not talking about increased capacity at all tonight. That's a separate item. And the city is addressing that through an evaluation of the needs and in partnership with new developers at this time. So it is a separate item. Hope that answers that question. So this is only for ratepayers, rates that are paid in exchange for services provided today.
Thank you.
I like what Larry Rhodes said. I agree with him. I don't think that my sewer money should be paying for the tertiary plant. At one time, we were gonna send water over to them. And I said, well, maybe if we send water, then, it'd be worth it. But the lady that's doing your engineering work, she said she read the contract. And in the contract, it said Ione, in the ARSA agreement, Ione is not to put any water in that tertiary plant. Zero. Unless, and that's in the contract, so that you'd have to negotiate with them to ever be able to put our water in the tertiary plant. So, and actually, like Larry said, I think it is against the law for ratepayers to pay for a business to water their golf course. And I almost had an answer, but the attorney that was gonna do it, he had a terrible accident. And no attorney since then has ever looked into it. But he said us citizens shouldn't be paying for that tertiary plant. And so I don't know what the deal is. So I hope if it is against the law, if somebody ever had the money to get an attorney and hire and look into it, we would be paying back somehow or another. It'd be all screwed up. We'd have to pay a lot of money back to the treatment plant funds. So you guys ought to look into that because you're the ones that make the decision on all this. And did you know that we cannot put any water in the tertiary plant? So that's what that engineer said that's looking into all that stuff, so. Cause she was surprised too when she read the contract, so. Everybody better start reading contracts again.
Thank you, Andy. We're gonna make a motion or?
You're gonna close public comment.
Yeah, I'm gonna close public comment. I'll close public comment. Okay, go ahead.
I will make a motion that we approve the 4 items listed in the recommended action on agenda item J2, excuse me. Do I need to read them all out?
You don't have to. Staff's recommendation would be appropriate,
Okay.
but it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we go with the staff's recommended actions on agenda item J2.
And that includes not the 450, 608, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay.
I didn't hear about from you guys.
Yeah, aye, sorry.
Oh, wait, item number B, authorize city manager to approve.
They're all there. Are those
Oh, you put
those are
them-
the 4 recommendations?
Okay, so you put him
Yeah,
on the
they're all
staff
in there.
report. Okay. So next up, Castle Oaks landscaping maintenance discussion and direction. Is there a staff report with this?
George's
report.
There we go. Got it. So at the July 16th meeting, the Ione City Council gave direction to have the Castle Oaks landscaping maintenance contract come up on an upcoming agenda for discussion. 2023, a new agreement was signed. This agreement does not include wording pertaining to Castle Oak landscape management.
George, are you going to are you going to
Yes,
take
so
the lead on this?
last council meeting, we were directed to kind of bring forth the subject again with respect to information regarding the actual contract and a maintenance agreement. It doesn't seem like there was a maintenance agreement per se, but you have the agreements attached to your review. So this is about receiving or getting a direction from council as to what you would like to do.
You're saying there was no maintenance agreement?
There was kind of an applied agreement because it's all part of the construction agreement.
It was approved by council by resolution. And it refers back to the agreement you guys had in place before then. And then you had a separate contract for the landscaping. Does that make sense? So you had an existing one that you then continued with your resolution. That's also attached. And then you had a separate contract for the landscaping. Which, does that make sense?
Yeah. So my understanding was, the issue was we had unhappy residents in Castle Oaks. I thought someone was going out there. Didn't we have our public works?
Yes, it's ongoing because there's been there's been a line break. So they are investigating the line break and I think was the root of some of the plants not getting water. So that is still ongoing. We're trying to determine what happened and who broke the line.
Okay, that doesn't sound like
Well,
what we were.
We also were looking at why the delay in getting this project completed and the plants and other things that were being placed that were listed in the cost sheet versus what's being actually put into the ground.
Right, somebody was going out there with the design plan.
Yeah, was my understanding. Public Works was going to go out with the cost sheets and the plans and give us give
Well,
us.
that's
a
still
report back
ongoing, but
on
then
what-
Mr. Chris is here if you'd like to say anything.
Well, I was
It wasn't-
actually looking for Public Works to,
Yes.
the
That's
Public Works
ongoing.
Director to give
Okay,
us
so
that.
it's not complete.
No, that's
Then we
ongoing
shouldn't even
primarily
have
because he's
this
been
here.
called off on various fire issues and so forth, so.
So do we want to push this to the
Yep.
next agenda?
Yeah, because that really was the item we were going to discuss, what was done. You have a puzzled look on your face, so it doesn't sound like that got passed on to you.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we table this
We got
until the
Ken
next
coming
meeting.
up here. Yeah.
Second.
Sorry. Okay, so we have a motion on the table to move this. Excuse me?
Could I approach before the motion since I'm the contractor, or should I wait till public comment?
I'm the motion is to table it until the next meeting.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be public comment on this?
Should be.
Well, sure. Let's,
Vote?
no, go up and,
Why do we have public comment on something?
So I was,
I don't
I'm
know,
the
Andy is-
contract,
Good.
On the agenda.
Yeah,
Got it.
Go ahead.
so Chris Strong, 531 West Marlette. I'm the CEO of Eco Urban Designs. I'm the contractor for this project. The original maintenance was put out in 2019, I believe. It was an RFP. It went out to bid. There was no other bidders. We got the job. I called Mrs. Jody, I forget your last name, Stenek. I was wondering, well, there's been a hold on one of the last invoice that I put in. I thought maybe there was a warrant issue because it's over 30 days right now. But apparently that wasn't the issue. We did, as far as I know, we did all the steps to get the contract approved correctly.
We did this renovation job because there was a bunch of broken lines, so that all happened with the council. That was approved for the renovation work. There's 3 phases of work. We've completed the first one. In fact, we just got the final inspection on the second phase for that second island. As for the plants, it's correct. There was few less plants. We realized as we did the job that it would be overkill to put in a lot of the monkey flower plants, which on hindsight, I don't think there's appealing to look at, which maybe some of you can agree with. I don't know. So we did change the plants list and the way we planted, mainly according to weather and just aesthetics. If you ever want to reach out to us personally, feel free to, but it's difficult for me as a contractor I got notice of this 24 hours ago that this was on the agenda. I don't check it every 2 weeks. Maybe I should, but there's going to be times when I'm not available to respond. So this is going to be the 3rd time in a row that I'm showing up for city council meeting, and I'm willing to do that. We want to do the best job we can for the community. We want everybody to be happy. You said there's been some people complaining. We've had many, many people that like the job, like they like it. They've stopped and appreciated it. And if you want, we can maybe bring some of those people out to talk as well. I think there's kind of a silent majority going on here personally. But once again, we want to be, in front of this. As far as I know, we've done all the process to get the proper contracts in place. I don't know if there's a hold on the last warrant. It was 29,000.
It's 25.
Okay, 25, thank you. But if you do $150,000 job and your deadline is by the end of the year, you're going to have some invoices that are going to be above 15,000. I don't know how you do that without going over on some. Last time I was here at the last meeting, I mentioned about the front area. I think there was some complaint about the front area along Highway 124. We've since provided a proposal to Mr. Lee for that work as requested by Mrs. Ratton, Councilwoman Ratton, pardon me. And so we're trying to stay ahead of all this stuff, and we really want to do a good job. And but if we're going to be coming to every city council meeting, it's just kind of difficult with, fortunately, I'm, coaching kids soccer and stuff. I'm willing to be here, but if it's going to be put on the agenda and it keeps getting pushed back to the next council meeting because there's not a clear direction, it's kind of frustrating on our point.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It shouldn't have been on there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I think that's all I have. If there's I know there's some people complaining. If there's any constructive comments about what we can do, we're all ears. And when we took on this project, there was a lot of broken lines. That one of those lines that was just broken.
1 minute left.
Okay.
I tell everybody that.
Well, I'm trying to help you guys out, but there was some lines broken recently. We've since fixed one of them, so we took that off of your plate. We had a city public works guy out there. He said he's weeks out to repair. So we're doing all we can to help out, and we want everybody to be happy. So I think that's all I have. Oh yeah, there was some plants that did die. We've already replaced them. And yeah, we've provided that quote for the repairs in the front. So if you want to get back to us on that, if not, if anything happens where plants are going to die, we're just going to go ahead and move forward because we don't want to risk people getting upset. So we'll probably just charge time and maintenance if we don't get an official approval on something. So just want to keep everything above board. Perfect timing.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna table it until,
Well, I made a motion. I make a motion that we table this to the next meeting.
can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Discussion, action, approval of members selected to serve on Ione Creek Committee in accordance with Chapter 2.62 of Ione Municipal Code. There is no staff report. And none of these were included with the agenda. So we put a notice out, and we had several very qualified individuals step up. One is not here tonight. I don't think she's here. Her name's Arlene Dutschke. Is that how you say that?
Yes.
I'll read her letter real quick. This letter is to indicate my interest in being placed on the Ione Creek Committee. I've had an interest and concern for the use and health of the creeks in Ione area. I grew up in Ione on our family ranch, whose lower border is Sutter Creek and Dry Creeks merge. I received a degree in agriculture from California State University, Fresno, and worked within the agriculture industry for 20 years. I believe I have a reasonable understanding of the importance of waterways to both urban and rural communities. I ended my working career by doing environmental work for the tribe, the Ione Band of Miwok Indians. I worked under a grant funded by the EPA Region 9. This work encouraged me to become more familiar with water quality issues as well as other environmental issues. It also allowed me to become more knowledgeable about native plants and their importance in our community. I have actively participated with Natural Resource Conservation Service and particularly with Plant Materials Center in Lockford, California. She keeps abreast of water concerns in Ione and very interested in becoming a member of the committee. I view these with Vice Mayor Ratton. And I know that Arlene has come to a couple city council meetings, and we felt that she would be a good fit. We also had Suzanne Nemeth, who I believe is here. She said, I am writing to express my interest and to formally apply to the Ione Creek Committee. I would like to use my skills, experience, and passion to do the committee's important work. I'm an Ione resident living within the city limits. Our property line borders Sutter Creek, aka Dry Creek. You guys might be neighbors. I am deeply committed to doing everything I can to help our city and our community thrive. I've researched the Ione Creek Committee's guidance as stated in the municipal code. I understand the goals and responsibilities. I also requested the Creek Committee meeting minutes. None are posted online. Per the Ione City Clerk, there are no minutes. She did provide me the meeting audio recordings, 10 of them since July 2020. And I've listened to the recordings and learned a lot, a few things of interest. She highlights the original stream bed alternation agreement that is valid until 2026. That's was something the existing committee put into place. And then she highlighted the Ione general plan as well. Her working experience has taught her how important it is to work as a team, to be able to collaborate effectively with committee members and other agencies to achieve goals. My Air Force career of 24 plus years included serving as the liaison to complex civil engineering projects, being responsible for critical communication systems, serving as the superintendent of education for 2,000 plus people. She has a proven track record that she can lead and can follow. She has a formal education, including degrees in electronics, management, education, and a master's in business administration from the University of New Mexico. We didn't even really have to think about this one, did we? So we're going to go ahead and nominate Sue to the committee as well. And then we have one last individual. You wrote a long letter too, but I'll read it as fast as I can. Her name is Crystal Echierto. Okay. I'm writing to express my interest in joining the City of Ione Creek Committee with a strong background in water management and environmental policy, coupled with a profound commitment to the preservation and effective management of our natural resources and access for our community. I'm eager to contribute to the committee's vital work in overseeing floodway uses, policies, and ordinances. Over the past 12 years, I've dedicated much of my career to advancing water management practices, environmental sustainability and stewardship, and community engagement with our natural resources. I am currently part of the executive leadership team at the California Environmental Protection Agency, serving over the last year as the Deputy Secretary for Public Policy, where I provide policy guidance to departments under Cal EPA and work closely with the Secretary to implement state environmental priorities. Prior to this, I spent 7 years at the California Department of Finance, with the majority of my time serving as the Water and Agriculture Principal, overseeing state departments, including the Department of Fish and Wildlife now, California Department of Water Resources, and State Water Resources Control Board, among other natural resources and environmental protection entities. In this role, I was a state fiscal policy expert and worked with departments to develop regulations, policies, and legislation to effectively implement priority water and agriculture interest. I am also an environmental scientist. I don't even know where you came from. I mean, I'm also an environmental scientist at the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, with a focus on fisheries, state water operations, floodplain management, and natural systems restoration. She has a background with a bachelor's degree in ecological and evolutionary biology, a bachelor's in plant science, a master's degree in public policy and administration. And she just goes on, and I'm just tired right now. I mean, you guys are just amazing. I mean, these are some amazing, really qualified candidates. And I mean, I'm happy to bring you guys on board, and I wish Arlene was here. I know I had two other, well, one of them's gone. But municipal code says that we can only have, people can only serve on one committee, can't serve on two. I know Larry Caputo expressed interest and Gary Thomas expressed interest, but he sits on the CFD committee and Larry sits on the Parks and Rec committee.
There's another sheet that Gary asked to be eliminated on the special district committee. He wants to be removed from.
Oh, he wants to be removed from the CFD committee. Is the Creek committee more fun than the CFD committee? Yeah, I can't, that's not before us right now, so I couldn't.
Did you get that? Did you
I didn't get
attach it to your?
I just copied it.
Oh,
It's right after his.
yeah, we didn't get these till we got here. I didn't get these until I got here. They weren't sent to me directly.
Well, if he wants off of that and on this, you can decide.
Well, we can all decide.
He's a water guy.
Yeah, he is a water guy. Okay. So if we're taking him off the CFD committee, okay, then we can put him on the Creek committee. So that gives us 4. Could I get a motion to?
You just appoint and we approve.
That's what I mean. Oh. Who approves? Do you approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the 4 appointments to the Creek Committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you for
Thank you.
stepping up.
Yeah.
You.
And Sue as well. Yeah. Just move forward. Okay,
That's good.
so
I'm back now.
what's that? So reports and communications from city attorney.
Yay, you got it right this
Right.
time.
I do have something to report this meeting. So here last week, I met at City Hall with a few members of the Parks and Rec Commission and a few members of the Planning Commission and provided a Brown Act training. So this Brown Act training was provided to less than a quorum of these committees. So it was not a noticed meeting. But we will be in the future having a noticed meeting with inviting all of the commissions. We'll also extend the invitation. It was requested by the commission members to extend the invitation as well to the council so that we could have all of the council's commissions in the room, because there was a lot of good conversation as to, how things work with regard to the
Right.
Brown Act, how things work with regard to what their role is. And I incorporate a lot of that into my training. So I just want to say it was a very, we had a good, attentive crowd, lots of great questions. You've got some good commission members, and I was happy to meet them because it also informs me about
Yeah.
the city and the operation. So I wanted to report that to you all.
Well, we've been trying to get that accomplished for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're,
So the Creek Committee is also a Brown Act committee. So
Maybe their first meeting, that could be the first item on the agenda
Yeah,
is
so-
doing training.
one of the things I'd recommend is working through Janice to coordinate with the folks on all these committees, to get as many people in the room as possible to kind of maximize the city's time and give the public, we didn't have public in this meeting, but I also think it would benefit the public to a certain degree too, to listen to my presentation and listen to the interaction of the different commission members. But I can work with Janice definitely to coordinate that.
Sounds good.
Okay, reports and communications from city manager.
Yes, thank you. Following up on a previous city council meeting, I did speak, but this is regarding Brickyard Road again. I did speak to Richard Forster, and he did confirm that the county would clean up all the trash and debris on the road prior to our request for annexation. I would like to thank Pete and Patty Mizuraka and their family for their effort in staging the Ione display at the Amador County Fair this year, and which received second place.
Hey.
And finally, just want to let the council know that I am obtaining bids on repairing the building next door. It's going to be a fairly significant project. I've gotten verbal bids anywhere between 300,000 to 700,000. So again, we're going through that process of trying to narrow down to get some bids in terms of getting the building to the point where the city can decide what to do. We're only focusing on abating the mold and some of the structural issues that exist so far. I think Mr. Mitchell gave a prior report. If we wanted to turn it into a police station, I think he said that it would cost well over $1 million. So that was kind of nixed at that time. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, council comments, committee reports, future agenda items.
I have none.
Well, me, revised pool hours for August, it's, pool's open Saturday from 12 to 6. My AFPA committee meeting was moved around. It'll be on Thursday, so I'll report next time. I met with a mobile home park on Merlette, and they're concerned about the transients on the end of, the spray field and, worried about fire activity that they're saying. I spoke with the sheriff and Chief Alfred on that item. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
We did the finance committee meeting and we went over the authority levels for department heads, city manager, what requires a PO, what doesn't require a PO. Where the staff is working on putting that down in writing, and then we'll review it and then we'll send that up to council.
Parks meeting, we discussed pickleball and basketball courts, and I believe they have documents out for bids right now. So we should get a report back on that. The programs that they're running this summer have gone really well. And as Jack said, they've extended the pool hours. They were going to close it, but now they're going to keep it open through August. So that's good as well. So that's all for me.
Just after hearing things tonight, I think that we should have a standing spot every other month for our engineer. Just so he's not missing anything that we're doing. I know that there's some work going on out at Howard Park that probably needs you to look in on. And I would like to just make it every other month.
Are we going to, is that a fee for service that you're going to be charging for that?
He's here anyway. Just kidding.
I don't like to pay for things that we don't have to. Yeah,
Yeah.
by all means.
So you're right, I am here every council meeting. No, I don't charge my time for council meeting attendance unless there's an item where I'm called to discuss or present.
Okay.
So I guess that may answer your question. However, if there's reporting that's prepared, i.e. preparation of a staff report, and then that staff report is presented at council, if it's a, bi-monthly update, then that would be, appropriate. If it's directed, that would be appropriate to charge.
Right.
Mm.
Okay.
All right. I had some other items, but talk about that later. Okay, we're going to go into closed session. We're going to go in on conference with real property negotiators out at Castle Oaks on Shakely Lane. And conference with labor negotiators regarding the Ione Police Officers Association. Is there any public comment on those two items? What was that?
Okay.
No? Okay. Anybody on Zoom? Janice? No? Okay, close public comment. Okay, we're adjourning to closed session. Oh. I'd like to just walk right out the door.
I kind of had a feeling that was you. We're wearing the same shirt.
Yeah.
I think it is.
It's nice to meet you.
You
Yes.
too.
Thank you for.
Well, no, we can't do it.
No,
Because it's too much. It's just too much right now. And so I think this is Sue right back here. Hi, Sue. I know, right?
Nice to have you.
Allison, nice to meet you. I mean. I know. No, we don't. No.
Yeah, well, and we didn't.
We did. Arlene couldn't make it.
And if you did.
The other member.
Right.
So I called her and she couldn't make it. And so you guys live close to each other?
Okay, thank you.
Are you in Castle Oaks? Oh, yeah. You know, we're probably not. The old fire truck, the uh-huh. We got there. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a Brown Act committee, so you gotta do this stuff.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I actually, already went through that.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Go to the meeting. I did not. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is.
Right. Well, then you're probably gonna be the chairperson.
They get to nominate.
Public,
Oh, you.
Yeah, she has.
both of they do.
Yeah, they, you guys get to decide who's your chair. Yeah. Yep, two, and right now you have at least two. Gary, who spoke twice, he's one. And then we are waiting on,
And so Gary used to be on city council years ago.
yeah, and he's on the water board.
And he's on AWA, which is Never Water, and he was on the CFD committee, now he
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah, he quit to get on this one.
This one's more fun.
I think this is something would reach out.
Yeah, so Janice will get your emails and she will send you the agendas ahead of time. They're on Thursday.
You guys, the phone number for, Lisa McCary, who was also on the committee last time. And I spoke with her, Andrea. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, she was, so that you have some, some background. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
It doesn't Kit Carson still. Hold on, let me just see if I.
She's definitely one you want. to have
Never
in
mind.
Minutes.
Why didn't you run for city council?
Oh, bless your heart.
Stop.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just made this other one small.
I need to stop.
Oh, really?
Is this the stop? No.
This was tame. This was tame. Yeah.
Stop recording.
Yeah, you could run for city council.
And then we need to say. I can do that.
Well, I did. I was very naive. Way better to sit. I was really naive.
Just the escape makes it little so you can make it.
Okay.
So if the committee is going to do that, that's the agreement and,
Yeah. Well, water, you can't, water's in the creek.
Alex might be able to send you a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah, I can give you a copy of all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I've got a few, but they're going back.
The whole, at least 4 of you right
That's great. Thank you, Sue.
I got back.
You guys can meet informally all you want and do what you want,
Talk to you later.
Information. You, as far as Brown Act, you two can talk to each other.
3 of you can.
3 of you cannot.
Isn't that interesting how that'll work? But we can talk, but not about business. We can't make decisions is what I understand.
Right.